not yet?
No, not yet.
Now it's come. Okay, very happy to share Finnish approach to make education, and so it's very much based on Finnish experiences, but of course we are doing everything in international context and in the international research communities. So even it is a national view, it's also the international view to make education. So I have this kind of topics today. So short introduction to make education in Finland, and then analyze the Maker project as a project-based learning. And then I focus to the thinking skills needed in Maker projects. And then I give examples of Maker projects in the classrooms and some research outcomes and finally some discussion. So actually Finland have a very long tradition in Maker field. So it was 1866 when it was decided that we should have lessons where students are constructing something with their hands, either from wood material, metal material, textile material. So it has a long tradition to focus to the making things. And it is not only making, of course, because we are in school context. It should be supportive for learning different kind of skills and thinking. So it was emphasized in the very beginning that what is made, it should be innovative, there should be creativity, aesthetics, and science and technology knowledge should be used in this making. And then in 1800, we have a kind of workshop in every school. The picture, the black and white picture is from the 1930s, 1940s, and this kind of rooms we have had a long time, workshops. And the picture below is a more modern style of workshop. But anyway, every school have maybe typically two, this kind of classrooms. And in 1800 and now, we are worried about the next generation. Are they ready for labor market? So in 1800, we were more looking for skills with hands. So people should be able to do something with the hands. But now we are more focusing to the thinking skills and learning to learn skills, and the maker environment is an important environment for learning thinking skills. So this is one example of the international framework which emphasizes what kind of competencies are needed in future. And I will come in the end to the idea that the maker spaces are wonderful environment for versatile learning of the competencies needed in future. So this is an OECD model. So the OECD is emphasizing the basic competencies first, like inquiring, design, solutions, problem-solving skills. But of course also the basic understanding of the important knowledge. And then the model is emphasizing the thinking skills, critical and creative thinking skills, computational thinking skills, and social emotional skills. And in the end, I will claim that the maker spaces in Finland, they are very supportive for learning all those three areas of competencies. And in IS, I give two examples of the curriculum content. So science curriculum and also the subject we call handicraft. It's handicraft is a school subject where people are making things. So in science, we emphasize the core ideas. Students should learn not every ideas, not all concepts in science, but core ideas. And these core ideas are important in science and engineering. So the engineering domain has been emphasized more and more in science in Finland. And the core ideas are used for explaining. They are generative. and they are relevant. So for example, the force is a concept, but the core idea is that force can change the movement. So the core idea is that force is changing the movement. And energy is the concept, but core idea is that energy is conservation of energy in the processes. Then the science curriculum emphasizes the scientific and engineering practices, and there are a lot of creative thinking skills and critical thinking skills are needed in those practices. Students' active role, collaboration, and learning of transversal competencies. So this is in a nutshell what students should learn in science. And in Finnish schools we have the science labs. We have the physics labs and chemistry labs. And students are engaging in inquiry activities. And another school subject important for Maker is the handicraft. And in handicraft, it emphasizes learning of technology and engineering in the context of making things. And the artifacts are important. The learning is happening around making an artifact. And nowadays it should be an innovative artifact, solving problems. And also the students should be active in planning, not only making. Planning in small groups, later on evaluating the outcome. And then in every school in Finland we have this type of workshops nowadays. And there are traditional tools, but there are also modern tools, laser cutters and many type of big tools that could be used for making. In a nutshell, if I put things together from the science curriculum and handicraft curriculum, these are the topics that I emphasized from the Maker point of view. So the project type of learning, so the learning is happening through making projects. The project should have an aim and there is something concrete coming out. But students have an active role in planning. And then they engage in practical hands-on activities. The project emphasizes creativity and critical thinking. Iterations are typically needed, so the project is not linear, they are more cycle, and there are iterations. They are not in one subject area, they are typically integrating multiple subjects, multidisciplinary. Maybe the most common is in the STEAM context. Students are working in groups, they have autonomy, they can make choices, they use technology, three-dimensional printing, coding, robotics, digital fabrication, sharing of knowledge and discussing about the outcomes. So let's analyze the Maker project as a project-based learning. So the project-based learning, the focus is in science to make sense of the phenomena, and in engineering, design solutions, or in maker spaces. And behind the project-based learning, there are those outcomes of the learning science research. For example, the books How People Learn, they are outlining what are the outcomes of the learning science research. And this research is emphasizing that these are the characteristics of the learning process for having good outcomes of the process. The student's active role, the goal orientation, contextualization of the learning. So students should have a feeling that I need to know this issue, I need to learn this skill. Previous knowledge is important, collaboration, interaction, This kind of group activities are important. Learning is supportive for interest motivation. Artifacts, working with artifacts is important, and use of knowledge in new situations. So these are the outcomes of these books or learning science research. And then the project-based learning is very much emphasizing these characteristics. Some years ago, we made a book, Learning Science, together with Barbara Schneider, Joe Kratzik, and Katarina Salmela-Aro. And in this book, we outline how the project-based learning could be used in the science classrooms. And the idea is to have more evidence-based teaching and learning. The evidence is coming from the learning science research. So that there are many definitions for project-based learning, but this is the definition in our book. So it has the origin in the learning science research, as I mentioned all many times. So there's a driving question. So what might be the good tool for making your hands warm in a cold weather? So how to make your body warm in a cold weather? That is a driving question for the project. And then the students are participating in authentic, situated inquiry design projects, make sense of phenomena or create innovations according to driving questions. And while they are working, they are active in scientific and engineering practices. Scientific practices, for example, asking questions, planning investigation, making argument based on the observation, modeling. Engineering practices, make a definition to the problem, generate alternatives or ideas, test the ideas, that kind of practices. Focusing to the core ideas, collaboration, constructing knowledge, working with artifacts, and teacher's role is the scaffold, the learning process. So this is the idea used in science and in maker spaces. This is the list of the engineering and design practices, so I already mentioned those issues. And now let's forget science for a while and let's focus more to the maker. So the inventing is the important in makerspace, and not inventing new things as such, but the process is important for learning how to make new things. And this kind of knowledge and skills are needed in labor market. So behind this invention project in the context of project-based learning, of course, there is a lot of things happening in history of education research. So Simon Papert's research on constructionism, Kratzik and Sin work on project-based learning, Fortus and other research on design-based learning. So combining those ideas to the makerspace. Let's go to the next. And then we quite, I make a mistake. Quite recently published another book, Invention Pedagogy, Finnish Approach to Maker Education. So in this book, we introduce Maker Project. It could be also called Invention Project, Design Project, Design Thinking. So actually there are many names for about the same thing in the international literature. But what is common to make invention, design, those process project engage students in non-linear, collaborative, hands-on processes where they generate creative solutions to open-ended, real-life design challenges. That is the idea in the book. I mentioned already that the make a project or invention project, it is not linear, it's non-linear. However, it's very difficult to make a picture of the very non-linear process. But there are these kind of elements: recognizing the challenge, making some background investigation, generate the ideas, evaluate ideas, design the prototype, test the prototype, and then come to the solution and accept it. And it doesn't typically go in just from the beginning to the end. For example, while you are generating ideas, you are typically recognizing more about the challenge. While you are testing the prototype, you understand better the challenge. So there are these kind of background loops, not linear type of working. Let's go further. So this model is introduced in the book, but of course there are very many similar projects. Very many similar description of the maker project. For example, design thinking. It's also the nonlinear iterative process. It has very similar phases. And they have also this kind of linear model, although the design thinking is not linear. So the innovations we are looking in makerspaces, they are maybe not brand new from the engineering point of view. They are new for those people who has created it. So it should be some innovativeness and newness in the project. Maybe somebody else has done similar project in another school, but this is making it more authentic. So and it's quite common that people are combining things. So for example, this makerspace outcome, the cleaning machine, they have combined carousel and brush, or cutting machine, so combine the bicycle and the green cutter, or fruit salad. They are innovative outcomes of the projects. So let's discuss more about creative, critical, and computational thinking, because they are crucial in makerspace projects. What is creative thinking? There are, of course, many definitions for creative thinking, but something common is that the outcome of the creative process is somehow novel. It is appropriate for the purposes it has been created. So typically this kind of characteristics are given to the creative thinking. However, there are many types of processes. For example, divergent thinking, you are generating ideas, and the idea is to have many solutions. Convergent thinking is more following a certain syntax. For example, solving mathematics problems in the textbook, that is convergent thinking is needed then. Inspirational thinking, light bulb moments, or lateral thinking, those carousel and brush together. So you are combining things and coming to the new solutions. Then you are following the lateral thinking. Aesthetic, you are looking for something nice for your senses. And system thinking nowadays more and more important. You are somehow holistically looking for the system. I will give an example in my maker example. And then critical thinking. So the critical thinking is not only criticizing, or not at all criticizing. It's very much connected for looking for evidence for your claims, that kind of things. So analysis of available facts, evidence, observations for make a judgment. And again, there are many types of critical thinking you met in makerspace. You are interpreting your observations. You are making the big issue to small pieces. You are analyzing it. You are evaluating your outcome. For example, the maker project outcome. You are drawing conclusions and reasoning. This is challenging world because actually there are so many models and definitions for critical thinking as well as for innovative processes. So this is one example, and this is another example. So I'm not telling that we have the right model, so they are all working nicely, but we have that model I show you. So let's go back to the Maker project and analyze it from the creative and critical thinking point of view. Because these two types of thinking, they are very much emphasized in those models for future competencies. The OECD model emphasizes the critical and creative thinking skills. So after recognizing the challenge, you are looking some background information. You are making observations, you are reading web pages, you are critical what's coming out, and you are looking for evidence. So you are employing critical thinking. Second, you are generating ideas, and it's more creative. Then you are somehow evaluating ideas. It's again critical. You are designing a prototype. It's again creative. Evaluating the prototype, critical. So during the Maker project, you need both creative and critical thinking in order to come to the solution. And nowadays we are more and more interested about computational thinking. It's also one of those transversal competencies. And it is something thinking like a computer scientist when the computer scientist is making the code or program. But it's not a coding, it is more thinking. So how the computer scientists are thinking while they are solving the problems. So you can analyze the computational thinking in many ways. It's algorithmic thinking, abstract thinking, and so on. But in the literature, you can find different classification of the different type of computational thinking. And this is the Sutter classification. He called them facets. So decomposition is one type of computational thinking. Data collection is one. Looking for patterns in the data. Make an abstraction. Following an algorithm. And so on. They are computational thinking. And it's not only making a code or program. When you are making the breakfast, you are making a decomposition. You are splitting the breakfast making to smaller pieces. Make a toast, make a tea, and then make a toast means that you have slices and butter and that kind of things. And so it's in everyday life, and especially it's in those Maker projects you are making decompositions. Or you are following an algorithm, how to make a cake. Make some measurements first and then combine things and put oven on and so on. Okay, now I have emphasized those invention or makers project. I have emphasized the thinking skills. What else are needed in makerspaces? What other thinking or competencies are needed? So these basic competencies, thinking competencies, and social emotional. So the basic competencies are scientific and technological knowledge, inquiry, design, invention. Thinking skills are here, and then social emotional skills. Positive attitude, empathy, confidence, communication, collaboration. So they are also important in makerspace projects. So you can see very nicely that while you are guiding students working in makerspace, you can emphasize the learning of those three areas of competencies that the OECD is emphasizing. Okay, let's have an example. Make a project in a classroom. And this is made in the 5th grade in primary school. And the project was about smart home. How to make a smart home in a workshop. So a driving question, how to build a house which behave according to sustainable development ideas. So in the very beginning, you are formulating the challenge, you are analyzing the smart home, and you have a system thinking behind your thinking. Second, we ask students to go to the school building and make pictures of the interesting situations. So situations they think that there is something smart, or there could be something smart. There is not yet, but there could be. So what is smart in a house? They are formulating the challenge, they are making investigation, they are making abstraction, and they have a system thinking how the house is working holistically. And then they come back to the classroom, teacher is helping them to recognize the whole picture. This is a kind of decomposition and also analysis of the situation, evaluation, and inference of the observations. So there is this kind of thinking skills needed all the time in makerspaces. And then they start look more background information. They are making investigation from the internet that what makes building smart. They look patterns, they make abstraction, interpretation, analysis, and inference. And then they communicate the outcome. As I mentioned, in project-based learning, the communication is important also. Students are engaging in scientific and engineering practices, but in the middle of the project, they communicate where they are going next. So they are communicating the situation where they are to the class, and they get feedback from the other students. And then they start to generate ideas. They use divergent thinking and system thinking. And we quite often use different kind of tools for supporting students to generate ideas. This is a simple tool. You have the challenge in the middle, and then you have papers around the challenge, and then you think about the processes in the smart house, inputs in the smart house, outputs, and so on. And you get a lot of ideas related to the smart house. Or you can just use those yellow labs. And then after making ideas, they again communicate that, okay, this will be the what is smart in our smart house. And then they start evaluate the ideas, how they are working in practice. They start to design a prototype. They decided to have an Arduino kit as a part of the prototype. So the Arduino is making the decision, is it too light or too warm or things like that. So there is an algorithm they are making and following. They are testing the smart house. They are using critical thinking. They are analyzing, evaluating, but they are also using the creative thinking, divergent and system thinking while they are making the prototype. And then they are introducing the prototype to the whole class. So that was an example. It's not happening 1 hour. It's something 5 hours, even more is needed for this kind of project. But it was very much following the idea of invention project. Students were employing the creative and critical thinking and this computational thinking, collaborating, supporting each other, learning from the project. So we have done some projects, research projects in the field of makerspaces. So this was one of my PhD students, Stina, and we were looking how elementary pupils make inventions. And these are examples of the creative process outcomes. Then we were looking how special needs students are participating in makerspaces, how the maker center project-based learning in an inclusive class is supporting for those students with difficulties. And then we were analyzing with the network analysis how the students were collaborating. The red bulb is teacher, how she is supporting the students, and the blue is the phase of the making. So it is possible to figure out how they are collaborating, where they need teachers' help, and that kind of things in different phases of the Maker project. And here we also interviewed students in the end of every lesson, and that was special important for the students with special needs. This was supportive for the reflection and learning of co-regulation in the makerspace, because students have a lot of autonomy, and it is not easy to engage all kind of learners in maker projects. So we are interested that how we can support those students who have difficulties in learning. And then is a third example. So the idea is that what science students learn in this kind of multidisciplinary project, where students are making things, and there is very strong science component in the projects. So they were making portfolio while they were creating the artifact, and we were analyzing the artifacts and those portfolios, and then made again this kind of network analysis, how the science topics are related with the technological working, and how the science topics are related to the practices and materials. And we were able to see what science they learn and in which situations they learn science as a part of Maker project. So I'm coming to the end of my presentation. So I would like to emphasize that in a makerspace, you learn those basic competencies, thinking skills, and socio-emotional skills. This is the area we have not made so much research. Only the engagement, how students engage in makerspaces project. But this thinking and project-based learning, we have done a lot of research. So what is in practice important, how to engage students in design solutions? We should putting students' ideas and practices in the center. We should emphasize the knowledge practices, science and engineering practices. Social interaction is important, and construction of an artifact. All the learning is happening around an artifact, and digital tools are really important while making things. And then contextualizing, having a driving questions, and teacher scaffolding. And you can find this book from the internet. It's free. We paid to the Routledge Publishing House the payments, and then it's open for the audience, and you can read more about Finnish approach to make education. So thank you for this possibility for introducing our approaches, and I'm ready for asking questions.
Jari, thank you very much for your presentation. We have some questions. Rasif, maybe.
Okay. Yes. So,
introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Jari, for a wonderful presentation. And you have explained so many different concepts together. So this is Rasif Tariq. I am a research professor in education and computer science, right? So I have one question, which is very interesting for me, and thank you so much for explaining the maker education, the differences with project-based learning. So as you know that we are working on Women Maker STEM here in Latin America. This is a project for which all of us are gathered. Since we are so many different people, each one of us have different specialities, right? So one of the speciality from my research group is to develop the courses on computational thinking, right? not coding, but how to think for computational context, right? The course is in Spanish. It is adopted for Latin America. So my question is that how do you recommend us to connect that course of computational thinking with the maker education? That would be so nice if you can help us to develop this connection.
Thank you. So as an expert, I'm sure that you can see that students are employing computational thinking in different phases of the project, but they do not recognize themselves. So we have used cards and in my presentation I have those different cards for different computational thinking facets. So the decomposition and looking for patterns. And then when we were guiding the process, we have those cards in the student table, and then we were asking that, okay, what type of computational thinking you are employing now and why. So we are thinking that they are kind of metacognitive tools or tools for supporting students' processes, and we are thinking that they should be aware what type of computational thinking they are employing, because then we think that it's very supportive later on in different phases in makerspace when they are meeting the challenge. Okay, let's split this big challenge to the smaller pieces. Okay, can we make this process or this algorithm more effective? So the cards are somehow, they are small artifacts and they are used for supporting students to recognize what is the computational thinking facets they are following. But this is an ongoing research, and in the context of robotics and coding, we are just now analyzing the data and how students are employing those cards, and how we are also interested that how critical thinking and creative thinking, how they co-occur with different computational thinking. So what type of creative thinking or what type of critical thinking they obviously employ with different type of computational thinking. So that kind of questions we are now looking from the data, video data we have recorded from the classrooms. I hope that I answer your question, but it was an interesting question and important question in my opinion.
Yes, thank
Another question,
Yes,
yes, please.
yes. So good morning and thank you for all the information. I'm Moriol. I'm from Spain, and in context, in the Spanish context, we have several problems with how to assess like the process in maker implementations in schools and both in high schools. Any recommendation you have for that part of the evaluation? Do you think it's more important like the process or the final artifact that students create? Many recommendations in that field. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this is the real challenge also for us, but how to assess, how to evaluate. So there are many answers. First, this kind of process assessment or process evaluation is important, and the learning of those thinking skills during the process, I think that's important. And that's why we have those, we emphasize that students should introduce to other students the situation where they are, what they have done until now, and what they are doing next. So this communication is important, and the feedback from other students. In our video data, we have also those communication situations when students are introducing the project, what they are doing, to other students and getting feedback. So this is kind of formative evaluation, formative assessment. Then we try also this kind of pre-test, post-test approaches, and we use those ready computational thinking tests, but it's very challenging to show that they are really learning those thinking skills with this kind of measurements. So we think that the formative assessment is maybe the most important in this kind of as a part of the learning process. However, of course, the outcome, but the outcome as such, the artifact, we think that that is not the most important, but maybe the portfolio connected to the artifact. As I mentioned in one project, we used the portfolio. Students were writing down what they have done, what they have learned in different situations, and making the summary of the learning process and learning outcomes. So not the artifact, evaluation of the artifact as such is not the most important, but the process, for example, utilizing the portfolio. So we are struggling with the same topics as you are struggling. So please tell us if you find good solutions.
Okay, thank you. Other question? Leo?
No, sí, I have one question.
Virginia and Luis.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Mhm.
My question is if you have any suggestions regarding evaluating the progress or the way the people adopt this methodology and the way they promote the learning.
Sorry,
promote the competencies.
so you are too far from the microphone, so it's very difficult to hear all the sentences.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Here, do you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for
It's much
your
better.
presentation. My question is if you have any advice regarding evaluation or assessing the way the participants achieve the different competencies and different kind of development kind of thinking that you mentioned in the.
Yeah.
Which kind of advice you can give us if we have to create a set of instruments for evaluating these processes?
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So as I mentioned that we have used those tests for measuring the computational thinking, but they doesn't give so clear message that what students have learned. And maybe the portfolio type of assessment, they are constructing a portfolio while they are making the artifact. So it helps in the analyzing the process, what they have done, what they have learned, and also the outcomes, how they analyze the outcome. But I think it's not similar than a mathematics evaluation of the mathematics skills or evaluation of scientific knowledge. So it's very different and it's very holistic. And you should emphasize those all three areas of competencies, those basic competencies, the knowledge and inquiry, problem solving, and then these thinking skills, including the computational thinking, and those socio-emotional skills. So this, I think the most successful has been those situations where students are communicating what they have done until now and what they will do next and what they have learned until now, and then they get feedback from other students. We have recognized that it's very important for making progress in those skills they are using in Maker projects. But you are not having the grades, you are not having this kind of similar evidence than in mathematics, but it's a different, it's a little bit informal style of assessment.
very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for your presentation. My question is, what recommendation would you give to institutions or organizations interested in implementing a real maker methodology to avoid improvisation?
So you ask about teaching methodology or pedagogical approaches. Is that your question?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes.
Yes. So our experience is that this project type of learning is good. So students have a clear aim, and it is communicated through the driving question, and then they are working in line with the driving question and engage in those practices, scientific and engineering practices, in collaboration and making artifacts. So it is not a kind of linear description. We call it non-linear pedagogy. It is, if you are organizing a traditional group work, you are given a task, then you are giving 5 minutes to familiarize it, and then you ask a couple of questions, and then you give 10 minutes to solve the problem, and then you collect what is the outcome. So it is linear. But this type of pedagogy used in makerspace, it is non-linear pedagogy. So teachers should tolerate the uncertainty and this kind of little bit chaotic situations. But basically this kind of basic ideas, what is coming from the learning science research, emphasize those issues in a meaningful way, in a meaningful order, not in a similar order, but in a clever way. It's more challenging for teacher because it's not linear. We call it non-linear. In this book, I advertise you. So there is also 1 or 2 chapters about this. What is the challenges in non-linear pedagogy? So maybe that helps you to recognize that it's not easy to give a recipe. Follow that. It's more in the situations you have to make decision what happens. But the driving question is driving your actions. It is giving the direction. The goal orientation is important, even it is not so linear. It is iterative approach, non-linear approach. Sorry for not able to give a simple answer.
Silvia.
Yes.
Hello, thank you. Thank you very much. I promise this is the last question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It has given us a lot of shed some light on what we're going to do here. We have learned that the maker methodology can be applied for different kind of, let's call it, students, from primary students, secondary students, higher education. But our project, the Erasmus project, is pretty much aimed, one of the objectives that we have is to develop training actions validated by macro credentials that allow the training of women as mentors of the maker methodology. With what kind of recommendations or key considerations you can give us, especially to the 3 institutions that we're going to implement this project, to choose or identify a similar profile of the women that we are going to train. They're going to be trained in this methodology to make them mentors. I don't think you can help us with that because we are from different countries, different regions, so we need to find like a similar profile. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's an interesting question. We have done a lot of research related to the gender equality and gender sensitive approaches in science and technology education. What we have recognized in project-based learning, while students are working in small groups, we have recognized that the similar practices engage both boys and girls, men and females, in a similar way. When they are in a real situation, in a learning situations, trying to recognize the challenge or making a model or constructing an artifact. So there are no heavy gender differences related to the engagement. But in some primary school projects, I'm not sure if it is working in secondary level, but primary schools, we have the contextual differences. For example, and students are free to select the context where they are making the artifact. For example, in some situations, females like more dancing robots than fighting robots. So it could be the fighting. I'm not saying that boys like more, girls like less, but you have the choice. Are you more orienting to this kind of gaming, fighting, or more focusing to the dancing or artists' decorations? But that's a minor issue in my opinion, because the processes are based on the data. We have a huge data from Finland, US, and Chile, and it looks that they are similar way engaging both male and females. But you can make a variation with those contextual issues and make students to decide what kind of context they are doing. Of course, also the materials, maybe the metal, plastic, wood, textile, that can make a difference between different genders. But the gender stereotypes in this context might be also harmful if you are too much concentrating that what is the good context for females, and but make the choices, make the students decide what is the context, what is the decoration, what is the material, how they introduce the outcomes. Is it a kind of drama or is it just a PowerPoint? That can make the difference between different students and genders also. But no simple answer to your question.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, getting far from the screen. Yes, thank you very much. It was we have pretty much a very good idea how to choose these women from the different regions are going to be better. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, how are you? I'm Edgar Omar. I'm the coordinator of the project. I really want to thank you, your time. You know, I was thinking that all the information that you gave us, that you shared with us, is so important. You established very clear form or some lines that we have to protect. We have to take care about it. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. I want to share you with the rest of my colleagues this certificate for you. We know maybe it's nothing, but thank you so much for all your support for the conference. For an applause.
Okay, thank you. And I wish you good luck because you are doing important work. Very much. I like your work, what you are doing. So I wish you good luck.
Thank you so much, Jules. Always very welcome. Thank you so much, Jari.
Thank you.
Regards from Mexico.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jari.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you. Bueno, vamos a aprovechar entonces para tomar un receso. si se dan cuenta, como no están grabando audio, alguna vez fui locutor de radio y el